It was supposed to be the moment he finally left war behind. Decorated U.S. Special Forces veteran Ethan Ward stood at the altar, calm, proud, ready to build a life in peace. But as he took his first step toward forever, his battle-trained K9, Rex, suddenly blocked his path, growling, trembling, refusing to move. Guests whispered, confused, some even laughed. "Is the dog nervous?" someone joked. But then Rex's ears shot forward, and he let out the same warning howl he once used in combat. A heartbeat later, he lunged toward the bride's side, teeth bared, not in anger, but in protection. A tiny glass vial tumbled from her coat, and in that instant, the wedding turned into a battlefield. No one understood what was happening, but Rex did. And the truth that followed would shatter hearts and save a life. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments below. A soft winter dawn hung over Asheville, North Carolina, pale sunlight dripping over rooftops like thawing frost as a quiet suburban breeze hummed against the glass. Ethan Ward stood before the full-length mirror in his bedroom, shoulders squared, posture crisp as if he were still in uniform. The tuxedo fit him with disarming neatness, broad chest tapering to a narrow waist, sleeves hugging sinewy forearms marked with faded scars that once carried rifles instead of cufflinks. At 34, Ethan bore the carved features of someone forged in dust storms and firefights: sharp jawline, day-old stubble like steel shavings, close-cropped dark hair, and eyes of storm gray, eyes that had seen too much, eyes that trusted slowly. He rolled his shoulders once, as if loosening straps from a tactical vest instead of silk suspenders. People told him he looked every bit the hero: square build, calm presence, quiet seriousness, but under that polished exterior lived a soldier still half-anchored to war. That conflict was always there, humming beneath his ribs. Today was supposed to be different. Today was his wedding day. And yet, anxiety tightened inside him like a tourniquet cinched too fast. Beside him sat Rex, his 6-year-old German shepherd, a muscular 85-pound sentinel with a jet-black saddle and sable coat glinting in the morning light, ears always upright as if tuned to frequencies no human could hear. Rex's amber eyes were sharp, calculating, and unnervingly intelligent, eyes that had tracked insurgents in deserts, searched rubble for survivors, and stared down death beside Ethan. Rex was battle-tested, calm under bombs, steady under chaos, living proof that loyalty can be trained but devotion must be earned. Yet this morning, the K9 radiated unease. Rex paced the hardwood floor in stiff arcs, nails tapping a tense rhythm. He would pause, sniff the air, then return to Ethan's side, restless, tail low, ears twitching. He had ignored breakfast completely, a first in years. For a dog trained to treat routine as scripture, ignoring food was not random. It was a message. But a message about what? Ethan watched Rex through the mirror, his jaw tightening. "Easy," he murmured, voice low like a mountain stream under ice. "We're safe." He didn't even believe himself. Safety was a concept he still struggled with. Peace felt foreign, like civilian clothes once had. Ethan reached down, scratching Rex behind the ear, feeling the dog lean into his palm, but remain tense, muscles quivering like a coiled spring. "It's just a wedding. You're being dramatic," he whispered with a breathy chuckle. But Rex didn't soften. Ethan inhaled deeply. Lavender cologne mixed with crisp winter air, a warm lamp glowed. A framed photo on the dresser caught his eye. Him and his unit overseas, the background sand gold like a dying sun. The man in that photo looked harder, colder, but simpler in one way. There, danger was clear, enemies visible. Here, life demanded vulnerability, trust, and that was far more terrifying. A knock came at the door, 2 short taps, 1 long. Ethan recognized the rhythm instantly. Tyler Griggs, the best man. Ethan opened the door, and Tyler stepped in, smiling too wide. Tyler was the kind of man who always seemed one laugh away from saying something inappropriate. Tall, wiry, with sandy blonde hair gelled back carelessly, freckles across a slightly crooked nose, and an air of practiced charm. He had sharp hazel eyes that glimmered with a salesman's confidence, though if one looked long enough, a nervous flicker pulsed beneath. Tyler dressed sharply in a tailored suit, but the collar sat tight like he wasn't used to formality. "Morning, soldier boy," Tyler announced brightly. "Big day, huh? Ready to trade camouflage for marriage chains? Ethan forced a smile, though Tyler's jokey bravado grated on him today. Good to see you too. Tyler stepped closer to clap his shoulder, and Rex planted himself between them, chest out, issuing a low, territorial rumble. Tyler flinched slightly, though he masked it with a laugh. Whoa, big fella. Still on duty? Rex didn't back down. Ethan placed a calming hand on the dog's neck. He's protective. Tyler's grin twitched. Yeah, I've noticed. Guess he's got opinions about marriage too. Something in Tyler's tone, forced lightness maybe, felt off. Ethan dismissed it with effort. War did that to a man. It made him suspicious of shadows, reading threats in small gestures. Tyler backed up a step, scratching his neck. Madison's gonna be here soon, he said, voice brisk. Figured I'd come check on you. Madison Collins, Ethan's fiancée. He pictured her, tall, graceful, blonde hair cascading in soft waves, warm hazel eyes, laugh like wind chimes. She worked corporate logistics, clever with numbers but gentler than life ever was to him. She held patience like an art, coaxing Ethan back into humanity one steady touch at a time. If sunshine were a person, she would be it. And yet Rex didn't like her recently. Not hostile, just watchful, suspicious, especially when Tyler was near. Ethan chalked it up to jealousy or protective instincts left over from deployment. But today, Rex seemed almost prophetic. Ethan looked at Tyler, then Rex, mind tugged by two worlds, duty and domesticity. We good? He asked quietly, not sure who he meant the question for. Rex stared at Tyler with laser-still focus. Tail stiff. Ears fixed forward. Then he let out another soft growl. Tyler held up his hands again. All right, buddy, message received. He forced a chuckle, but sweat dotted his temple despite the cool room. I'll just wait downstairs. When he left, Rex followed his movement until the door shut, then returned to pacing. Ethan's muscles tightened. Something in his gut twisted, not fear, but that same old battlefield instinct, the whisper every soldier learns not to ignore, pay attention. He straightened his cuffs mechanically. This is your wedding day, he told himself. Normal life, normal worries, but normal was a language his bones never learned. Rex suddenly halted, head snapping toward the window like a sniper catching glint off glass. He emitted a sharp, warning bark, one Ethan remembered hearing only twice, once before an ambush and once seconds before a roadside bomb. Ethan froze. The room held its breath with him. A cold pinprick slid down his spine. He turned slowly, eyes narrowing, heartbeat pounding like helicopter rotors in his ears. Rex, he whispered, what do you know that I don't? The dog stared up at him, chest thumping, gaze unblinking, haunted, urgent, certain. And Ethan felt it then, that same old dread, the pre-firefight tension he thought he'd buried with his medals. Peace had never trusted him, and maybe it never would. Somewhere downstairs, a car door slammed, footsteps, a woman's voice, Madison's. Rex pressed against Ethan's leg, vibrating with tension. Ethan swallowed, unsure whether he was stepping into vows or into battle. The doorknob turned, and Rex growled again, low, warning, unmistakable. The chapter ends here, on the precipice, Ethan caught between love and instinct, between altar and alert, between a promise made with his heart, and a threat only his veteran bones and loyal canine could sense. The chapel stood framed in late morning light, its white stone glowing softly under the gentle Appalachian sun. A breeze rolled down from the hills, stirring ribbons tied to pews and carrying the faint scent of pine and winter jasmine. It should have been peaceful, sacred even. For most people it was. But for Ethan Ward, this moment felt like the slow inhale before a firefight he hadn't been briefed for. He approached the grand wooden doors of St. Gabriel's Chapel, the world buzzing around him with laughter, footsteps, and fluttering dresses. Guests greeted one another warmly, men in navy suits adjusting ties and sharing firm handshakes, women in pastel gowns fixing curls and fanning themselves lightly. Somewhere near the steps, someone's heels clicked nervously against concrete, punctuating the symphony of whispers and camera shutters. Rex moved ahead of Ethan initially, but then the dog stopped abruptly. Muscles tightened, chest lifted, ears sharpened forward like radar. Rex blocked the entryway, body rigid, tail aligned like a steel rod. Ethan's breath slowed. That stance, the same posture Rex took once, moments before a hidden insurgent detonated a pressure plate bomb in Kandahar province. Rex had saved 2 men that day. No one doubted him after that. Ethan never had. "Rex, heel," Ethan commanded softly, not stern, requesting, searching. Rex didn't budge. Instead, he emitted a deep, controlled growl low in his throat, not aggressive, but warning. His amber eyes tracked movement beyond Ethan's shoulder. A black limousine pulled up, glossy as oil under sunlight. Out stepped Madison Collins. She looked radiant, a tall woman with soft blonde hair pinned elegantly, skin pale like porcelain touched with sunlight, and hazel eyes framed by long lashes. Her dress flowed like liquid ivory, delicate embroidery catching each ray. In her beauty there was kindness. But today, beneath that kindness, something trembled. Madison's gait wavered slightly, the kind of step someone takes when their mind is somewhere else entirely. Her lips held a shaky smile, as though painted over nerves, and then there was her right hand, clenched tight around the lapel of her coat. The coat was powder blue, cashmere, expensive, elegant, yet something about the way she clutched it, white knuckles, wrists stiff, felt wrong. Behind her, emerging from the limo, came Sophie Klein, Madison's maid of honor. Sophie was in her early 30s, petite and sharp-featured, with olive-toned skin and sleek black hair styled in a low bun. She had bright, observant brown eyes and the posture of someone who preferred reading people quietly rather than speaking first. She worked as a trauma nurse, a fact she liked to hide with sarcasm, but which showed through in her steady gaze, the kind that could face blood, chaos, and panic without flinching. Today, though, worry tugged subtly at the corners of her mouth. She watched Madison more closely than the crowd did. Tyler Griggs was right beside Madison, hand supporting her elbow. His grin seemed stretched thinner now, eyes darting with a jittery alertness. His forehead glistened faintly in the mild sun, the way it does when someone rehearses a lie too long. Rex growled again, louder this time. Gasps and whispers spread among the guests. "Oh, look, the hero dog thinks he's security detail," someone chuckled lightly, a middle-aged man with a trimmed gray beard and a burgundy tie. Ethan didn't laugh. His instincts roared awake like an engine. He caught a scent, sharp, faint, chemical. Memory jolted, ammonia blasts in training facilities, explosive residue checks, tear gas drills. Madison blinked too often, eyes faintly irritated. Why would she? Sophie frowned, noticing it too. "Madison, are you all right?" she asked softly, placing a hand on the bride's shoulder. Her voice carried warmth, but something firmer underneath, like steel wrapped in velvet. Madison smiled too quickly. "Just nerves," she breathed. "I'm getting married." Yet her fingers wouldn't leave the coat lapel. Ethan's pulse ticked. He raised his hand instinctively, thumb out, fingers curled, two pointed forward. A silent command. That old signal. Halt. Watch. Cover. It slipped from muscle memory like a ghost from war, following him into peace. Rex responded instantly, scanning, stance defensive. Most guests chuckled or whispered in amusement, thinking the dog was putting on a show. They didn't see the silent exchange, the ancient military conversation between man and canine, alert, threat, unknown variable. Ethan's voice came quiet, almost prayer-soft. "Rex, what do you see?" Rex's gaze sharpened on Madison's coat pocket. His lip curled, his hackles lifted like rising wheat in a storm. Tyler noticed. His smile faltered. He adjusted his tie, too tight, too nervous. "Relax, everyone. The dog's just excited." But his voice pitched higher than normal. His Adam's apple bobbed. A woman next to him, an aunt with silver hair and a bun, raised an eyebrow at him suspiciously. Sophie's nurse instincts fired. She leaned toward Madison again, whispering urgently, "Your breathing is fast. Are you having a reaction to something? You look pale." Madison shook her head quickly, shielding her coat again. "No, I'm fine." Ethan noticed her eyes. Watery, faint redness around the rims. Chemical irritation or tears? Hard to tell. But Rex knew one thing. Danger had a scent. And it was here. Ethan slowly stepped forward, posture still, voice calm but steel-lined. "Madison," he murmured, "can I see your hands?" She froze. The chapel doors behind them creaked in the wind. A hush fell. Even the birds seemed to stop singing for a breath. Rex pressed forward another inch. Guests gasped. Madison shook her head slightly, almost pleading. "Ethan, please, don't." Sophie's eyes widened, fear or realization it was impossible to tell. Tyler's jaw clenched. His foot shifted like he might bolt. Inside Ethan, something old and instinctual snapped into clarity. Not fear, but certainty. Weapon? Chemical ampule? A trigger? Why here? Why today? He whispered to Rex, voice barely above wind. "Stay sharp." Rex didn't blink, and in that frozen doorway, in a place meant for vows and forever promises, Ethan felt the battlefield flood back, not in memory but in presence. Emily's hand trembled at her lapel. Tyler swallowed hard. Sophie reached discreetly toward her purse. A nurse prepared for emergencies. The crowd leaned in, breath held. Then, from inside the chapel, the organ began playing, soft, innocent, oblivious. Time fractured, beauty on one side, danger on the other. Ethan's hand lifted an inch, palm open, not to attack, not to accuse, but in a reflex older than love itself, ready to protect. Rex braced, a silent wall of loyalty and instinct, and before Ethan could speak again, Madison whispered a single trembling word, one that cracked like glass under pressure. "Please." Then Ethan heard it. That sound, shoes behind him, another door opening, and something in that moment told him, this was not nerves, this was not cold feet, this was something far darker. He had not left the battlefield, it had followed him to the altar, and Rex, faithful, battle-scarred Rex, had seen it first. The organ's first notes spilled into the air like a fragile ribbon of sound, tender and ceremonial, and the heavy chapel doors swung wider to welcome the bride and groom into a sacred union. But no sooner had the music breathed into the space than Rex emitted a sharp, piercing alarm howl, one Ethan had only ever heard twice, both times moments before life split into before and after. That howl was a battlefield siren, a primal klaxon torn from the instincts of a creature born to detect danger in its most disguised form. Without waiting for command, Rex lunged. His movement was a streak of sable and muscle, a flash of disciplined violence honed through dust, blood, and loyalty. Guests gasped, some stepping back. A woman dropped her bouquet and choked back a scream. Rex's powerful jaws did not snap flesh, but fabric, his teeth gripping the seam of Madison's inner coat, jerking sharply. The delicate powder blue wool tore with a ripping crack, threads snapping like brittle nerves. From the torn pocket, a small glass vial rolled free, glinting like a sliver of ice as it tumbled onto the stone step and clinked, once, twice, before resting. The moment froze with it. The vial's contents shimmered faintly, a sun-kissed swirl inside clear glass, innocent-looking yet sinister in its stillness. Then the scent rose, harsh, chemical, sharp as ammonia mixed with pepper, burning the back of the throat and needling the eyes. Ethan's spine locked. That smell, not perfume, not makeup remover, not anything that belonged at a wedding. The organ faltered. The stunned pianist lifted trembling fingers from the keys. Ethan's voice cracked through the silence like gunfire. "Back, everyone, back!" He didn't shout like a groom. He barked orders like a captain in combat. Guests recoiled, confusion blossoming into fear. A man in the third row, stocky, mid-50s, thick salt and pepper mustache, wearing a charcoal suit that strained slightly around his stomach, grabbed his wife's hand and tugged her behind him. That was Daniel Morris, a retired firefighter known in town for surviving a warehouse collapse 10 years prior that killed 2 crew members and left him with a slight limp and a haunted watchfulness. His instincts flared. Old trauma sharpened him instantly. He braced like he expected an explosion. Near him, an elderly woman clutching a cane, Mrs. Harriet Cole, tiny and bird-boned, with powder-white hair curled meticulously and eyes clouded but perceptive, whispered shakily, "Lord have mercy." Ethan swept his body between Rex and Madison instinctively, hand raised to signal distance, palm open, fingers tense. "Open the doors. Ventilate now," he commanded, eyes never leaving the vial. His tone allowed no debate. The ushers froze, stunned, until one of them, Peter Lang, a broad-shouldered usher in his late 20s with a clean-shaven face and earnest brown eyes, a former college linebacker known for loyalty to a fault, snapped to action. He flung the heavy doors fully open, letting winter air pour in, sweeping the sharp scent outward. Madison stumbled backward, breath hitching. Her face drained of color, lips trembling. Not fear of Rex, fear of exposure. Tyler grabbed her arm instinctively, but his touch wasn't protective. It was desperate, fingers digging in as if to anchor himself to control that was slipping. "What the hell, Ethan? Restrain your dog!" he shouted, voice cracking as panic seeped through the cracks in his bravado. Ethan ignored him. "Rex, guard!" The command left his lips like habit. Rex instantly lowered into a defensive stance in front of Ethan, body taut, breath measured, not attacking, shielding. Madison's hand flew to her lapel again, but there was nothing left to grip, only torn cloth, her secret spilled like glass on stone. "Ethan, please," she whispered, voice barely audible as her mascara-darkened lashes trembled. She looked fragile, fragile in a way that made pity tug against instinct, but pity never saved men overseas, and it would not save him now. Ethan's senses sharpened to razor edges. "What is this?" he demanded, nodding toward the vial. Madison shook her head. "It's nothing. Just something for nerves." Sophie, still in her pale lilac gown, chest rising in tight breaths, knelt beside the vial but stayed inches away, analyzing without touching. Her medical mind flicked behind her wide eyes, calculating, recognizing, remembering. "That is not medication," she whispered. "That's not anything a bride brings to calm nerves." Her gaze flicked to Ethan's, alarm forming. Tyler's face reddened, sweat pooling above his upper lip. "Everyone calm down. It's cough-suppressant concentrate. Mad's been sick." "Stop!" Sophie snapped sharply, surprising even herself. "Do not lie right now." Tyler's jaw clenched, a tremor racing through it. "I'm not lying." But his eyes avoided hers. Ethan stepped closer to the vial, careful, scanning. His heart thudded like boots running through dust and gunfire. His war brain roared awake. Chemical dispersal size? Delivery? Intended symptom? Why at a wedding? Rex growled low, chest vibrating. Tyler shifted his stance reflexively, foot sliding back. Ethan clocked it. Retreat posture. Guilty posture. "Everyone move back 10 feet, Ethan ordered the guests, voice hard steel. They obeyed in a shuffling panic. Daniel Morris helped steady Mrs. Cole as she clung to her cane, mumbling prayers. Then, Madison's voice cracked, not soft this time, but sharp with a kind of shattering resignation. "Ethan, don't do this," she pleaded. "Please, not here." Ethan's expression didn't soften. "Then tell me why you brought a chemical vial to our wedding." A tear slid down her cheek. Her mascara streaked like war paint, undone by truth. I just needed time," she whispered. But her gaze darted to Tyler. And that was the confession her mouth couldn't give. A quiet gasp rippled through the crowd. Sophie straightened slowly. "She didn't bring it alone," she murmured, voice trembling with anger, not fear. "Tyler knew. Tyler helped." Tyler flinched visibly, eyes flashing with anger before shame folded over it. "You don't understand," he hissed. But Ethan did understand. He just didn't know why yet. A sharp exhale escaped him. That battlefield instinct pulsed harder now, throbbing warning signals through his spine. This wasn't just panic or nerves or cold feet. This was intent, and intent always mattered more than tears. "Nobody move," Ethan said coldly, "until we know what this is." In the silence that followed, the wind rustled through the chapel aisle, lifting Madison's veil like a ghost of the wedding that could no longer exist. Far away, police sirens began faintly rising, called no doubt by someone who sensed the truth before words admitted it. And Rex, unwavering, stood like a fortress, loyalty incarnate, eyes burning with the certainty only a soldier's dog knows. The vial glimmered on stone, a future shattered like glass beside it. Ethan's chest rose, breath measured. "Who were you buying time from, Madison?" he asked quietly. Madison's lips parted to speak, then closed, trembling. But her silence was louder than any scream, and the world held still, knowing that whatever answer came next would change everything. Blue and red lights flashed against the white stone of St. Gabriel's Chapel, their reflections flashing across faces frozen between disbelief and heartbreak. Sirens faded to a hum as 2 squad cars pulled up, snow-dusted tires crunching over gravel and winter-pale grass. The cheerful wedding ribbons fluttered helplessly in the breathing wind, unaware that the celebration they framed had rotted into something cold and sour. Officer boots struck the ground, measured, heavy, authoritative. Leading them was Detective Marcus Hall, a broad-built black man in his early 40s with a closely trimmed beard dusted in early winter gray, jaw like steel plates, and the steady posture of someone carved out of military discipline. His eyes, dark, perceptive, and patient, carried the quiet sadness of a man who had seen too many ruined moments and shattered futures. He'd once been an Army MP before turning to civilian law enforcement, and the faint scar running from his left temple to his cheekbone suggested a knife fight or shrapnel. He never talked about which. Behind him walked Officer Dana Reyes, mid-20s, lean and alert, Latino, ponytail tucked tight behind a cap, moving with careful precision. She radiated eagerness mixed with nerves, the kind that comes with trying to prove you belong while carrying the memory of a rookie mistake she nearly didn't forgive herself for, letting a domestic call lull her guard last winter and earning a broken rib for it. Now, she took no chances. Detective Hall scanned the scene, the torn coat, the trembling bride, a groom-to-be with eyes like loaded guns, and a German shepherd holding the ground like a deployed soldier. Ethan stood upright, shoulders squared, face stony and silent, while Rex sat pressed against his leg, muscles held like springs. Hall approached slowly, not wanting to escalate a tense environment any further. "What happened?" Hall asked, voice steady as bedrock. Ethan didn't speak immediately. His jaw flexed once before words found him. "Potential dispersal agent," he said flatly. "Glass vial, chemical scent, my canine alerted before exposure." Reyes lifted a gloved hand, leaning slightly forward, not touching, observing. "Where's the vial?" "By the north entry step. Don't touch it," Ethan said. "Fumes irritate eyes." Reyes nodded, a sign of respect more than agreement. She moved to secure it, sliding protective eyewear down and carefully sealing the vial into a clear forensic pouch. The sharp tang still hung faintly in the air like invisible smoke. A few guests coughed lightly, waving hands, unsure if it was real or imagined. Madison stood trembling, her makeup streaked, face pale as if all color had drained straight into the stone beneath her feet. Her veil quivered in the wind, snagged on a loose piece of wood, fluttering like a frayed flag of surrender. Tyler hovered beside her, posture small, fists clenching and unclenching like he wished he could squeeze. Courage out of bone. Hall addressed Ethan with a knowing look. "You didn't deploy this dog by accident." "He reacted on instinct," Ethan replied. "He's trained for live threat environments. I've learned to listen to him." Hall nodded once, a veteran to another. He turned to Madison. "Ma'am, I need you to explain what this substance is and why you have it." Madison's knees buckled slightly. Sophie stepped forward on reflex, but Madison shrank away, not wanting comfort. Her voice came out ragged, strained, the kind people use when they've been holding too much for too long. "It was just supposed to make me faint. Not dangerous, just time. I needed time." Tyler exhaled hard through his nose like a man punched in his gut. Silence spread across the courtyard like frost. Detective Hall raised one brow calmly. "Time for what?" Madison's lower lip quivered. "I was going to marry him. Don't lie again," Sophie whispered sharply, pain heavy in her voice. Madison swallowed, fingers twisting the torn lapel like it was the last thread holding her sanity. "I had debts. All my accounts. Frozen. People waiting. I needed the ceremony delayed. A day, 2 maybe, just long enough to fix it, to protect us from the fallout." Tears spilled, raw, trembling, desperate. "I wasn't leaving him. I just couldn't sign with everything collapsing. I thought if I fainted at the altar we could pause. I'd figure it out before he knew. I never wanted to hurt him." Hall glanced toward Ethan. Ethan's expression didn't shift. If anything, it solidified, ice sealing across his features. His voice came out low, vibrating with something that wasn't rage, but something colder, something worse. "You were planning to lie to your husband on the altar." Madison's breath hitched. "Only for a moment." "There is no such thing as a harmless betrayal," Ethan cut in. His tone was not loud, but it struck like steel against bone. Not to a soldier, not to someone who has buried friends because trust failed. Rex brushed against Ethan's hand, offering warmth. Ethan's fingers tightened around the fur, but he didn't look down. He stared only at Madison, at the image of a future evaporating, at the beautiful dress hiding fragility and deceit, at the woman who had promised forever but only meant until it gets hard. The chapel felt smaller, the winter air sharper. People whispered, some sympathetic, most judgmental. A few guests stepped back as if deception itself were contagious. Tyler finally spoke, voice cracking. I told her it was stupid. I told her we could fix it after, but she panicked. Hall's voice dropped into steel. Don't finish that sentence if you're going to incriminate yourself. Tyler shut his mouth instantly. Sophie's expression hardened, not cruel, but disappointed in a way that cut deeper than anger ever could. You should have trusted him, she whispered to Madison, voice breaking slightly. He would have helped you if you'd told him. That man would walk through fire for the people he loves, but you handed him smoke. Madison sobbed harder, shaking, wiping her face with trembling fingers. I know. She looked at Ethan, eyes pleading like a drowning person begging for a rope they already cut themselves. Please believe I didn't want to lose you? Ethan's gaze didn't soften. Then why did you gamble that I wouldn't see through you? Tyler looked away, jaw tight, shame burning through him. Officer Reyes cleared her throat gently. Sir, ma'am, this substance is controlled. You'll both need to answer a few questions at the station. Madison nodded weakly, defeated. Tyler looked like he wanted to faint next. Hall met Ethan's eyes again, not judgmental, but regretful. You all right? I will be, Ethan answered quietly. Eventually. Hall nodded once. Strong men heal slower than people think. War teaches loyalty like religion. Betrayal feels like shrapnel. Ethan didn't respond, but the flicker in his jaw was acknowledgement. Rex pressed his head against Ethan's thigh again, present, grounding. Ethan rested a hand on the dog's neck, drawing steadiness from the heartbeat beneath fur. Hall gestured to the squad car. Reyes gently took Madison's arm, not harshly, but firmly. We'll sort this out at the station. Madison looked at Ethan over her shoulder. No words, only apology carved in tears. But apologies were bandages that couldn't hold this wound closed. Ethan stood perfectly still, watching the future he thought he knew walk away in handcuffs and veil fragments. He didn't chase it. He didn't speak. He only breathed, slow, tired breaths of a soldier who had survived another ambush, not of bullets but of trust. Rex leaned into him, a silent reminder that loyalty sometimes wears fur and bleeds none of its honor. The wind stirred, lifting petals from the aisle and scattering them like ashes of a ceremony that died before vows could be spoken. Ethan exhaled, eyes forward, heart bruised but unbroken. Rex nudged his palm, and Ethan realized this wasn't abandonment. It was extraction. A rescue mission he never knew he needed. Afternoon sunlight slanted across the Carolina pines, golden and soft, as though the world were trying to apologize for the cruelty of the morning. The winter air had that quiet aftershock stillness, the kind soldiers feel when the dust has settled, but the echoes of what happened still cling to the bones. The chapel behind them emptied hours ago, yet the ghosts of vows never spoken still lingered in air that smelled faintly of white roses and adrenaline. Ethan Ward sat at the edge of a weathered wooden footbridge spanning a narrow river that whispered over smooth stones. His posture was relaxed to the untrained eye, but a deeper look would reveal tension held between each breath, as if his ribcage still carried invisible armor. His tuxedo jacket lay folded beside him, sleeves rolled showing tanned forearms carved by discipline and time. The breeze ruffled his dark hair, and his gray eyes, storm-lit earlier, now looked calmer, like clouds clearing after thunder. Yet a tiredness lived there, a grief not just about a broken engagement, but about trust cracked open again. Rex sat pressed against his right leg, head resting heavily on Ethan's thigh like an anchor preventing him from drifting into grief's undertow. The German shepherd's coat glowed under the afternoon light, black saddle glinting, tan fur sleek, ears relaxed for once. Rex's amber eyes followed the river's flow, then flicked toward Ethan every few seconds as if checking vital signs. A soldier who loves is a soldier who risks, and Rex could sense the ache beneath Ethan's breathing. Nearby, the wind played lazily with petals fallen from abandoned bouquets, scattering them like memory fragments. Groomsmen and bridesmaids had long departed, some in whispers, others in stunned silence. Madison's veil had been left behind, caught on a railing post, a tattered white flag of surrender. Ethan hadn't touched it. A crunch on the gravel trail behind them drew his attention. Detective Marcus Hall approached, not in uniform now, but in dark jeans, boots, and a slate jacket, Out of duty clothes, he looked less like law and more like a man familiar with loss, square-shouldered, broad hands showing faint scars, beard trimmed close along a strong jaw. He carried himself quietly, the way people do when life has taught them respect for pain. "Mind company?" Hall asked, voice deep and steady. Ethan nodded. "Not today." Hall took a seat a few feet away, respecting space. "We processed the vial, confirmed it was a non-lethal disorienting agent, still illegal. Stupid choice, not malicious intent." "Intent can still break people," Ethan said softly. Hall exhaled slowly. "Yeah, it usually does." Silence fell. Comfortable, heavy, but shared. Hall glanced at Rex, who studied him, tail thumping once in acknowledgement. "Hell of a dog," Hall murmured. Ethan's lips twitched. "He's better than most humans I've known." Hall nodded slowly, eyes saws, reflecting shared truth. "I've known brothers in uniform who'd betray for less than a favor, and dogs who'd die for you without asking why." Hall paused. "It's not the pain that haunts you, huh? It's how close you came to trusting wrong again." Ethan looked down at the river. Out there, a wrong judgment costs lives. Here, it costs futures. Hall studied the water too, voice quieter. "You didn't lose a future. You dodged a false one." Then he stood, brushing dust from his palms. "Take time. Heal. And when you're ready, this city could use someone who knows loyalty the way you do." His gaze drifted to Rex. "Both of you." With a nod, Hall left the bridge, footsteps fading. Moments later, Nurse Caroline Brooks appeared, a woman in her late 50s, silver hair tied back in a low bun, soft lines etched gently at the corners of her warm brown eyes. She had a posture shaped by years of leaning over wounded souls and a kindness that felt like wool blankets and steady hands in stormy nights. She wore simple navy scrubs and a worn cardigan, giving her an unpretentious grace. She stopped a respectful distance away. "Ethan?" He turned slightly. "Caroline." She had been a counselor at the VA clinic where Ethan attended occasional therapy. She'd seen hundreds of veterans arrive armored in silence and leave with pieces of themselves stitched back together. Caroline's voice carried the calm of someone who'd walked many through darkness. "Word travels in small towns," she said softly. "And military folks talk fast." He almost smiled. "Rex saved me again." Caroline nodded thoughtfully. "That's what partners do. They warn us even when we don't want to hear truth." She hesitated before sitting beside him on the wood rail. "The clinic asked me to remind you, we're still building that canine therapy program, and there's a spot for someone like you, someone who understands trauma without flinching." Ethan looked at Rex, who lifted his head proudly, ears pricking. "He'd like that," Ethan murmured. Caroline smiled. "So would the patients." She rose, patting his shoulder gently, the rare human contact Ethan didn't withdraw from. "Sometimes healing someone else heals you too." She left in silence, letting the wind fill the space between their worlds. A moment later, a younger man jogged up, early 30s, sandy hair tied in a bun, lanky build, round glasses, carrying a DSLR camera. Jared Levin, local photojournalist, socially awkward but sincere, known for his thoughtful features on community heroes. He always walked like he forgot where his limbs went and talked like each word was gently tested as it left his mouth. "Hey, Ethan. Sorry, am I interrupting? I just, wanted to say the whole county's talking." Jared scratched his neck awkwardly. "They're calling Rex the four-legged best man. News sites already picked it up. Hope that's okay." Ethan blinked in quiet amusement. "He's earned worse titles, and better ones." Jared grinned crookedly. "Wanted to take a picture, but maybe another time. Not today." He nodded, acknowledging the gravity of this sacred quiet. "Take care, Ethan." He backed away with the awkward grace of someone who cares too much about not disturbing peace. Ethan let the calm sink in. The river gurgled, wind whispered. Rex sighed deeply, a soft rumble that felt like reassurance. Ethan closed his eyes, inhaling pine and riverbank earth. "You saved me," he murmured, "from the wrong war." Rex nudged his palm with a warm nose, tail thumping softly. Ethan chuckled, voice rough. He lifted a small flower crown, delicate baby's breath and pine sprigs, and gently placed it around Rex's neck. My real best man. Rex licked his hand, expression solemn as if accepting a medal. Ethan whispered, voice low and raw, I didn't lose. I got extracted. The sun dipped lower, painting the water gold. The world kept moving, gentle and certain. And Ethan, for the first time since leaving the battlefield, felt something like relief settle inside his chest. Not perfect, not whole, but real. He didn't wear a ring. He didn't walk an aisle. He didn't get a wife. He got freedom. He got clarity. He still had his brother in fur. And love, real love, didn't always enter in lace and music. Sometimes it arrived in fur and warning growls, with loyalty instead of diamonds, and devotion so honest it could break illusions, but never hearts. The wind carried pine and new beginnings. Ethan rested his hand on Rex's head, not as a commander and his K9, but as two survivors choosing the same road ahead. There would be new missions, training K9 units, help opposante, trauma survivors, teaching loyalty through action, not ceremony. And maybe, someday, a different kind of love would find them. But not today. Today, they had peace. Today, they had earned it. And somewhere deep inside Ethan's healing heart, a quiet truth finally settled. Sometimes the greatest love stories are written without rings, vows, or aisles, just loyalty, courage, and a companion who never lies. When life closes a door that you thought would lead to forever, sometimes it's not tragedy, it's protection. Some miracles do not arrive with thunder or trumpets. They come quietly, like a loyal dog refusing to move, like a warning in your spirit, like a moment when God gently redirects your steps before your heart breaks beyond repair. There are angels in heaven, but there are also angels God sends to walk beside us every day, some with words, some with open arms, and some with fur, steady eyes, and hearts that would die to protect us. In the calm after Ethan's storm, you and I are reminded that divine intervention doesn't always look like beams of light from the sky. Sometimes God saves us through instincts, through intuition, through loyal companions, and through the pain that leads us to truth. In your life, when something or someone tries to stop you, pause and listen. Not every closed path is a punishment. Sometimes it's God whispering, "This is not your road, my child." Trust His timing, His protection, and the quiet miracles He plants in your journey. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need reminding that love, the real kind, is patient, honest, and guided by faith. Comment your thoughts, subscribe to join this family of hope, courage, and loyalty, and let's continue walking together through stories that remind us we are never alone. May God bless you, protect your home, and guide your steps, just as He guided Ethan's, and may your own quiet miracles find you when you need them most.